This is When You Were Everything, chapter The Stacks, part 2, pages 178 to 183. The Stacks, part 2. For the rest of the afternoon, it was me who avoided Layla. I knew I needed to apologize for the way I'd reacted to her getting the part in the play, but I wasn't sure what to say to make things right. She still hadn't texted me, even after seeing her in the hall in front of the auditorium. But I swallowed my pride and texted her first. "Can you meet me in the library after school? We can do our homework in the stacks." I stared at my phone, waiting for her reply, and to my surprise, it came only a few minutes later. "Sure." I crossed my fingers that she wasn't as mad as I thought she was going to be. Her answer was short, but she could easily have ignored me, said no, or made up some kind of excuse, and she didn't. It was a good sign, I told myself. After last bell, I speed-walked to the library, and it was crowded with kids. I hadn't thought about it, but it was final season. I edged around a few people near the entrance and headed into the stacks near the back of the library, to the corner where Layla and I always studied. The aisles were a little busier than usual, too, with kids checking out books like they'd forgotten the library was there until that last day. But to get to Layla, I hopped over the dropped backpacks and squeezed by people still wearing theirs despite the narrow aisles. She broke into a smile the second she saw me, which I wasn't expecting. "Hey," I said, slipping my backpack off and smiling back. "Crazy how many people are here, right?" She was still wearing her bag, like she wasn't planning to stay. And as I slid my notebook out of my backpack, I paused, noticing. I looked up at her. "So, Chorus got invited to this big Christmas recital that's going to be at the Lincoln Center," Layla squealed quietly. "A bunch of high schools," she started, but her excitement seemed to steal her voice for a second. She shook her head like she could shake off the block that was causing an extra long pause in her speech. She started again. "A bunch of schools are singing, and it's going to be awesome. But Mrs. Steele is adding another day of chorus rehearsals to our schedule to prepare." Which meant Layla would have chorus practice 3 days a week. And once rehearsals started for the musical, that would leave no after-school time for us to hang out at all. I felt the disappointment tugging at different parts of my face. "So I'm basically never going to see you once the musical stuff starts," I said. And I thought my voice sounded sad. And I thought my voice would sound sad, but it sounded like I was angry instead. I shoved my notebook back into my backpack and didn't look at her. "Why didn't you congratulate me? Or, I don't know, say something nice. It's a really big deal that I got that part. I thought you would understand that more than everyone, how important it was to me." That was my opportunity to say sorry, to say that I was proud of her and that I couldn't wait to see her up there, doing her thing. But I was suddenly filled with a hot kind of anger about losing even more time with her, time that she didn't seem to mind not being able to spend with me. She clearly wasn't thinking about that. She only cared that I wasn't immediately over the moon for her, regardless of the complications, regardless of what it meant for us. I couldn't bring myself to say any of the things I knew I was supposed to say. And as angry as I was about everything, I'd rather she hear the awful truth from me than embarrass herself in front of the entire school. "You can't blame me for being surprised," I said. And it was like I flipped the switch, the way Layla's face changed. It turned into that hard, mean one she's always used for protection. I knew I would cause her pain, but I kept talking, because, for the first time in weeks, she was acting like she could hear me. "I just mean that I wouldn't expect someone with a speech impediment to get a lead role in a stage show. And I know you've been working with this new speech therapist, but that smooth talking voice you use, how sustainable is it? Can you speak like that for 2 full hours? Have you thought about that?" Her face got even tighter, even meaner. I reached out to put my hand on her shoulder. I said, "Layla, I'm asking you this stuff as your friend." I frowned and waited until her eyes locked with mine. "I'm trying to look out for you," I said, lying and telling the truth at the same time. I didn't know you could want to hurt and protect someone simultaneously until that moment. She moved away from my hand. "What about all the times when I told you I wanted to be on Broadway and you said I totally could? What about all the times you told me I had a great voice? Was that all a lie? Did you never believe in me at all?" "Layla," I started, but she stopped me again with a hand held dangerously close to my face. "So, what you're telling me is that you've never taken me seriously?" I blinked slowly and took a deep breath as I pushed her hand gently away from me. I said what I said next, slowly and seriously, looking right at her. "I don't think it hurts to dream." It was the truest thing I'd said to her in days. "You know what?" Layla said. She took a step away from me. "Sloan was so right about you." I took a step forward to stop myself from talking too loudly. "What does that mean?" I hissed in her direction. "It means since the beginning of the year, I've been trying to defend you, to tell her that you're a good person, that you didn't mean anything by it when you accidentally let Todd into the party, that she should try to get to know you because even though you're a little pretentious, you mean well." "Pretentious," I said, insulted. Pretentious means to think really good about yourself. "Oh, please, Cleo." Layla rolled her eyes. "You listen to jazz-age music almost exclusively, and you unironically quote Shakespeare. You don't even watch TV. You're uber pretentious. And look, I'm not judging you for that. I try my hardest not to judge anyone, ever, because it's how I was raised, okay? But this, shooting down my dreams as they come true and assuming I'm going to fail before I've even tried?" Layla's dark eyes filled with tears. "That's something I will remember, Cleo." She picked up her bag. "I think I need some time to think about all of this," she said, in her high-pitched, sing-song stage voice. She didn't stutter at all. "I'm not going to text you for a while. I need time to clear my head and focus on the play." And all at once, I was as mad as I'd ever been in my entire life. I wanted to rip books from the shelves and launch them at her. But I just spoke in my regular voice instead of whispering. People stared, but I didn't care. "Whatever, Layla. I'm not always just going to be here, waiting for you like a lapdog or something. You don't get to be friends with me only when it's convenient for you." She didn't say anything back. She just walked out of the library with her head down, her thumbs moving quickly across the screen of her phone. I knew she was texting Sloan. I knew she was talking about me, telling Sloan that she'd been right to hate me from the start. So I took out my phone too. But a second later, I realized I didn't have anyone to text about her. And that fact made my eyes fill, for the first time all day, with tears.